The crystalline doors of the Xylonian Grand Council chamber shattered as Princess Zara stormed out, her iridescent scales flickering with barely contained fury. The chorus of outraged gasps from the assembled counselors fell on deaf ears as she strode down the hall, her ceremonial robes billowing behind her like a storm cloud. "Your Highness." Chancellor Vex's reedy voice echoed off the pearlescent walls. "This is madness. You cannot possibly be serious about entrusting your safety to those primates." Zara whirled around, her violet eyes flashing. "Those primates, Chancellor, have achieved in centuries what took our people millennia. It's time we saw them for what they truly are." The princess's mind raced back to the moment that had sparked her fascination with humanity. It had been 5 cycles ago, during a routine diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. Their ship had been ambushed by Vraxian marauders, notorious for their advanced cloaking technology. The Xylonian escort vessels had been disabled within minutes, their sophisticated defense systems rendered useless. Just as all hope seemed lost, a battered human freighter had dropped out of hyperspace. Instead of fleeing, the tiny ship had thrown itself into the fray. Zara watched in awe as the humans used mining equipment and jury-rigged weapons to not only fend off the attackers, but also rescue the stranded Xylonians. The memory of the human captain's grin as she helped Zara aboard still sent a thrill down her spine. "Welcome aboard the Rusty Bucket, Your Highness. Sorry about the mess, but we weren't exactly expecting royal company today." Since that day, Zara had devoured every scrap of information she could find about humanity. Their resilience, their creativity, their sheer audacity in the face of overwhelming odds. It all fascinated her, and now, with the most important diplomatic mission of her life looming, she knew there was only one choice. "I've made my decision," Zara declared, her voice ringing through the hall. "I will travel to the Galactic Concordat aboard a human vessel." The assembled counselors erupted into chaos. Elder Zix, his tendrils writhing in agitation, floated forward. "Princess, please reconsider. The humans are unpredictable, dangerous even. Their ships are held together with hope and wire. How can we entrust the future of our people to such primitives?" Zora's eyes narrowed. "It is precisely that unpredictability that we need, Elder. For too long, we've relied on our technology, our superiority. And where has it gotten us? Stagnation, complacency. The galaxy is changing, and we must change with it." Chancellor Vex sputtered, his chromatic skin cycling through a rainbow of distress. But the diplomatic ramifications. The other races will see this as a sign of weakness. They'll think we allied ourselves with the humans. "Good," Zara said, a sly smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Let them wonder. Let them question. It's about time we shook things up in this stagnant pond we call a galaxy." As the council descended into arguments, Zara's personal communicator chimed. She glanced down to see a message from an unnamed source. "The U.S. Defiant stands ready, Your Highness. Captain Chen awaits your word." Zara's heart raced with excitement. She had chosen the Defiant not just for its impressive record, but for its captain. Sarah Chen had a reputation for unorthodox tactics and a knack for succeeding where others saw only impossible odds. If anyone could navigate the treacherous waters of interstellar politics, it was her. "Enough." Zara's voice cut through the din like a plasma blade. "The decision is made. I leave for Earth in 3 rotations. Any who wish to accompany me are welcome. The rest of you, try not to collapse our empire while I'm gone." With that, she turned on her heel and strode towards her chambers, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind her. As the doors closed, Zora allowed herself a small smile. The real adventure was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to see what the humans would teach her next. The U.S. Defiant dropped out of warp with all the grace of a drunken elephant, shuddering and groaning as it approached the Xylonian Royal Spaceport. Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair, silently praying that the ship's patchwork of human ingenuity and alien tech would hold together for just a few more minutes. "Status report, Mr. Nakamura," she called out, trying to keep the tension from her voice. Her chief engineer's response crackled through the comms, punctuated by the sound of sparking circuits. "Well, Cap, the good news is we're still flying. The bad news is, well, everything else. The warp core's running hotter than a supernova, life support's at 60%, and I'm pretty sure our port nacelle is held together by duct tape and wishful thinking." Sarah closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Just keep us in one piece until we dock, hero. We can't afford to look weak in front of the Xylonians." As the Defiant limped towards the crystalline spires of the spaceport, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the contrast. The Xylonian structures were perfect, gleaming examples of advanced technology. The Defiant, on the other hand, looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts, which, to be fair, it largely had been. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from Tactical, "we're being hailed by Xylonian control. They're requesting we submit to a full security scan before docking." Sarah gritted her teeth, patched them through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of a Xylonian official. His iridescent scales shimmered with barely concealed disdain as he regarded the human crew. "U.S. Defiant," he intoned, "your vessel does not meet our standard security protocols. We must insist on a thorough inspection before you're allowed anywhere near our royal family." Sarah leaned forward, mustering every ounce of diplomacy she could. "With all due respect, sir, our ship has been personally requested by Princess Zora. I'm sure she wouldn't appreciate any delays to her schedule." The official's eyes narrowed. "Nevertheless, we cannot risk." He was cut off by a commotion off-screen. Suddenly, Princess Zora herself pushed into view, her violet eyes blazing with excitement. "Captain Chin," she exclaimed, "your arrival is most welcome. Please, disregard these tedious protocols and dock immediately. I'm eager to begin our journey." The Xylonian official looked like he'd swallowed a sour starfruit, but he grudgingly gave the clearance. As the communication ended, Sarah let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Well," she muttered, "at least the princess seems to like us." As the Defiant maneuvered into its docking bay, the contrast between human and Xylonian technology became even more stark. The sleek biological curves of Xylonian ships made the Defiant look like a child's attempt at sculpture with scrap metal. Sarah led her senior staff down the gangway, trying to project an air of confidence despite the sparks occasionally shooting from exposed panels. A delegation of Xylonian officials waited, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright disgust. Princess Zora burst through the line of officials, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the Defiant. "Captain Chin, your ship is remarkable. I've never seen anything like it." Sarah bowed slightly, hiding her surprise at the princess's enthusiasm. "Thank you, Your Highness. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts." As if on cue, a loud bang echoed from within the ship, followed by a plume of smoke. Hero's voice crackled over Sarah's comm badge. Cap, you might want to hold off on the tour for a bit. We've got a small situation in engineering." Sarah closed her eyes, counting to 10 in her head. When she opened them, she was surprised to see Princess Zora grinning from ear to ear. "Fantastic," the princess exclaimed. "Captain, I simply must see how your engineers handle this crisis. It's exactly the kind of adaptability I was hoping for." As Sarah led the excited princess into the chaotic heart of the Defiant, she couldn't help but wonder what she'd gotten herself into. One thing was certain. This was going to be a journey unlike any other. The U.S. Defiant shuddered violently as it attempted to break free from the Xylonian spaceport's gravitational field. Captain Sarah Chen's knuckles turned white as she gripped her command chair, her eyes darting between the malfunctioning consoles around her. "Nakamura, what the hell is going on down there?" she barked into her comm. The chief engineer's voice came back, tinged with panic and the sound of alarms. Cap, it's like someone's rewired half the ship. Systems are failing faster than I can patch them. At this rate, we'll be lucky if we don't tear ourselves apart. Princess Zora, standing wide-eyed on the bridge, turned to Sarah. Captain, could this be some sort of mechanical failure? Before Sarah could respond, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, cut in. Not likely, Your Highness. These failures are too coordinated, too precise. This is sabotage. A tense silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the groaning of stressed metal and the blare of warning klaxons. Sabotage. Zora's voice was barely a whisper. But who ruled? Her question was interrupted by a violent lurch as the ship suddenly accelerated, careening towards one of the crystalline spires of the spaceport. Helm full reverse. Sarah shouted, but the young ensign at the controls shook her head in despair. No response, Captain. We're locked out. Sarah's mind raced. They had seconds before impact, and conventional methods weren't working. Time for some human ingenuity. Nakamura. She yelled into her comm. Emergency plasma venting. Port nacelles. Now. But Cap, that cold. Just do it. A moment later, a brilliant burst of blue plasma erupted from the ship's left side, the force pushing them just enough to miss the spire. They scraped by with meters to spare, leaving a trail of sparks in their wake. As the immediate danger passed, the bridge erupted into a flurry of accusations. It must be the Exelonians, Rodriguez exclaimed. They never wanted us to take the princess in the first place. Zora's eyes flashed dangerously. How dare you? My people would never endanger me like this. Clearly, this is some human plot too. To what? Prove your worth through manufactured heroics. Sarah raised her hands, calling for silence. Enough. Pointing fingers won't solve anything. We need to work together to find the real culprit before they strike again. Just then, Nakamura's voice crackled over the comm once more. Captain, you're gonna want to see this. I found something in the Jefferies tube near the warp core. Minutes later, Sarah and Zara stood in the cramped maintenance tunnel, staring at a small device attached to a bundle of critical power relays. Its smooth, opalescent surface was unmistakably of Cylonian design, yet the crude wiring connecting it to the ship's systems bore the hallmarks of human engineering. It's a hybrid, Sarah muttered, her brow furrowed. Someone's combined Cylonian and human tech to create this sabotage device. But who would have access to both? Zora's face had gone pale. Captain, I may know something. There's a faction within the Exelonian court, extremists who believe any interaction with lesser species will taint our civilization. They call themselves the Purists. Sarah's eyes narrowed. And you're just mentioning this now. I never thought they'd go this far, Zora protested. But if they've somehow allied with humans who share their isolationist views, then we're in even more danger than we thought. Sarah finished grimly. She tapped her comm badge. Bridge, this is the captain. Set course for the Calestrian Nebula, maximum warp. The nebula? Zara asked, confused. But that's not on our planned route. Sarah's lips curved into a determined smile. Exactly. If there are saboteurs on board, we need to shake things up, go somewhere they won't expect. The nebula's intense radiation will mask our signatures, give us time to root out the traitors. As they made their way back to the bridge, Sarah couldn't help but notice the way Zora looked at her, a mix of admiration and something else, something deeper. You know, Captain, the princess said softly, I'm beginning to understand why your people have survived against such long odds. You're remarkable. Sarah felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the ship's malfunctioning environmental controls. We'll get through this, Your Highness. Human and Cylonian together. As the stars streaked by outside, Sarah knew that their journey had only just begun, and that the real challenges still lay ahead. The U.S. Defiant hung suspended in a swirling maelstrom of color, tendrils of gas and energy writhing around the ship like living things. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport, her face bathed in the ethereal glow of the Celestrian nebula. "It's beautiful," Princess Zora breathed, coming to stand beside her. "I've never seen anything like it." Sarah nodded, but her eyes were hard. "It's also the perfect place for us to regroup and flush out our saboteurs. The radiation here will mask our presence from any pursuing ships." As if on cue, the ship shuddered violently, causing both women to stumble. "What now?" Sarah muttered, tapping her comm badge. "Bridge, report." Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came back, tense and confused. "Captain, you need to see this. The nebula. It's alive." Moments later, Sarah and Zara burst onto the bridge, greeted by a sight that defied explanation. The view screen showed massive, undulating patterns in the nebula's gas, too regular to be natural phenomena. "It's feeding on our energy emissions," the science officer, Dr. Lakshmi Patel, explained. "Every time we power up a system, those tendrils reach out and drain it." Sarah's mind raced. They were trapped, their power slowly being siphoned away by an entity they couldn't fight or outrun. "Suggestions, people," she barked. The Exelonian security chief, Gax, stepped forward. "Our advanced shielding should be able to repel this creature, if we divert all power." "No," Sarah interrupted. "We do that, we're sitting ducks for any saboteurs or pursuers. We need another way." As the bridge crew argued, Zara noticed something odd on one of the auxiliary screens. "Captain," she said slowly, "look at this energy pattern. It's rhythmic, almost like music." Sarah finished, a spark of inspiration in her eyes. "Dr. Patel, what if this entity isn't attacking us? What if it's trying to communicate?" The science officer's fingers flew over her console. "It's possible. The energy pulses do show similarities to complex waveforms, not unlike music or language." Sarah turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Choi, I need you to translate our ship's energy outputs into something resembling music. Use every scrap of human music theory you know." As Choi worked feverishly, Gax scoffed. "This is absurd. We should be preparing our weapons, not composing songs." But Zara's eyes were shining with excitement. "No, don't you see? This is exactly why I chose a human ship. You think outside the boundaries of conventional logic." Minutes ticked by, the ship's power levels dropping steadily. Finally, Choi looked up. "I think I've got something, Captain." Sarah nodded grimly. "Let's hope this works." Broadcast on all frequencies. A haunting melody filled the bridge, a strange fusion of Earth's classical compositions and the rhythmic pulsing of the ship's own systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the nebula began to change. The violent swirling calmed, and the energy-draining tendrils retreated. In their place, new patterns formed. Complex, beautiful mandalas of gas and light that shifted and danced in time with the music. "It's responding," Dr. Patel exclaimed. "The energy drain has stopped. In fact, Captain, it's replenishing our power reserves." The bridge erupted in cheers, but Sarah remained focused. "Can we communicate further? Ask it to guide us out of the nebula." Over the next hour, human creativity and Selenian precision worked in tandem to establish a rudimentary form of communication with the nebula entity. Through a combination of musical tones and precisely calibrated energy pulses, they conveyed their situation and their need for safe passage. As the Defiant emerged from the Celestrian nebula, guided by shimmering pathways of friendly energy, Sarah felt a swell of pride in her crew and in humanity's unique approach to the universe. Zara touched her arm gently. "You did it, Captain. You solved a puzzle that has confounded our scientists for generations." Sarah smiled, but her eyes were already focused on the stars ahead. "We did it together, Your Highness. But our journey's far from over. Whoever sabotaged us will be waiting. And next time, they'll be ready for our human unpredictability." As if to underscore her words, a proximity alarm blared. On the view screen, A sleek battle cruiser shimmered into view, its weapons primed and locked on the Defiant. Sarah's jaw set in determination. All hands, battle stations. Looks like our newfound friend bought us just enough time to face our real enemies. The nebula pulsed behind them, a silent reminder that in the vast expanse of space, understanding could come from the most unexpected sources, and that the key to survival might just be a willingness to sing a different tune. The U.S. Defiant limped towards Outpost Omega, a sprawling space station that hung in the void like a tarnished jewel. After narrowly escaping the battle cruiser with a combination of unorthodox tactics and a timely assist from their nebula ally, the ship was in desperate need of repairs and resupply. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her uniform singed and her face smudged with soot, but her eyes burning with determination. "Status report, Mr. Nakamura." The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm, exhaustion evident in every word. "We're running on fumes, Cap. Warp drives offline, weapons are at 30%, and life support is, well, let's just say I hope everyone enjoys recycled air." Sarah nodded grimly. "Understood. Let's hope Outpost Omega lives up to its reputation as a neutral haven." As they approached the station, Princess Zora joined Sarah on the bridge, her royal garments replaced by a practical jumpsuit. "Captain, I must warn you. Outpost Omega has a colorful reputation. It's a haven for smugglers, mercenaries, and those seeking to avoid the attention of larger galactic powers." "Sounds like my kind of place," Sarah replied with a wry smile. "Sometimes, the shadiest ports are the safest for those in our position." The docking procedure was tense, with station security subjecting the Defiant to multiple scans before granting clearance. As the airlock hissed open, Sarah addressed her crew. "Remember, we're here for repairs and supplies only. Keep your eyes open and your mouths shut. We can't trust anyone." The station's promenade was a riot of sights, sounds, and smells from 100 different worlds. Aliens of all descriptions haggled at market stalls, while shady deals were conducted in dimly lit corners. Sarah led a small team, including Zara and Lieutenant Rodriguez, towards the station's administrative sector. As they walked, Sarah noticed a hooded figure tailing them, always staying just at the edge of her peripheral vision. She was about to alert her team when chaos erupted. A deafening explosion rocked the promenade, sending civilians scrambling for cover. Through the smoke, Sarah saw a group of armed assailants converging on their position. "Ambush," she yelled, pushing Zara behind a fallen market stall. "Rodriguez, cover our 6." The next few minutes were a blur of plasma fire and hand-to-hand combat. Sarah's team fought with everything they had, their human adaptability and Selonian precision forming a formidable defense. But they were outnumbered and in unfamiliar territory. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, the hooded figure Sarah had noticed earlier burst into action. Moving with inhuman speed and grace, the stranger cut through the attackers like a hot knife through butter. As the last assailant fell, the figure turned to Sarah, lowering its hood to reveal the iridescent scales and violet eyes of a Xelonian. "Captain Chin, Princess Zora, we must move quickly. There will be more coming." Zora gasped. "Vex, but you're supposed to be on Xelonia. What are you doing here?" The Xelonian, apparently named Vex, ushered them towards a concealed doorway. "Saving your lives, it would seem. I've been tracking the conspiracy against the princess for months. This attack is just the beginning." Sarah's mind raced as they hurried through dimly lit corridors. "The sabotage on our ship, the battle cruiser. It's all connected, isn't it?" Vex nodded grimly. "A coalition of extremists from multiple species, all united in their desire to prevent closer ties between our peoples. They fear the changes such an alliance would bring." They emerged in a small, cluttered room filled with communication equipment and star charts. Vex quickly locked the door behind them. "We don't have much time," he said, pulling up a holographic display. "The conspirators have agents throughout this sector. Their next move will be to prevent you from reaching the Galactic Concordat At any cost. Sarah studied the display, her tactical mind already formulating plans. We need to get off this station fast, but the Defiant is in no shape for a prolonged journey. Zara stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with a newfound resolve. Then we'll have to acquire a new ship, one that can outrun our pursuers and break through any blockade they might set up. Sarah raised an eyebrow, a slow smile spreading across her face. Your Highness, are you suggesting we steal a ship? Zora's answering grin was positively mischievous. Consider it a royal requisition, Captain. Besides, isn't bending the rules a human specialty? As alarms began to blare throughout the station, Sarah couldn't help but laugh. I think you're starting to get the hang of how we do things, Princess. All right, team, let's go shopping for a new ride. And maybe save the galaxy while we're at it. With renewed purpose, the unlikely group of humans and Zilonians prepared to plunge back into the chaos of Outpost Omega, their mission now clear: survive, escape, and unravel a conspiracy that threatened to unravel the very fabric of galactic society. The stolen ship, a sleek Andorian freighter Sarah had christened Lucky Break, dropped out of warp at the edge of a system that didn't appear on any official star charts. Ahead of them loomed a planet shrouded in swirling, opalescent clouds. Vex, are you sure about this? Sarah asked, eyeing the redouts with suspicion. Every alarm on this ship is screaming at us to turn back. The Xylonian agent nodded grimly. This is Erebus, Captain. A quarantined world, officially deemed too dangerous for any contact. But it's also our best chance at losing our pursuers and uncovering the full scope of the conspiracy. Princess Zara leaned forward, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. I've heard whispers of Erebus. They say it's home to technology far beyond anything in the known galaxy. And that's exactly why it was sealed off. Vex added. The potential for such power to destabilize the galactic balance was deemed too great a risk. As they began their descent through the roiling atmosphere, the ship's systems started to behave erratically. Consoles flickered, and strange readings flashed across the screens. Whatever's down there, Lieutenant Rodriguez called from Tactical. It's playing havoc with our tech. We're flying blind. Sarah gritted her teeth, wrestling with the controls. Everyone hold on. This is going to be a rough landing. The Lucky Break plunged through layers of clouds, each more dense and disorienting than the last. Just when it seemed they would be torn apart, they broke through into clear air, revealing a landscape that defied description. Impossibly tall spires of crystal and metal stretched towards the sky, interconnected by bridges that seemed to shift and change as they watched. The ground pulsed with veins of energy, and in the distance, huge floating structures drifted lazily through the air. Sarah managed to set the ship down in a clearing, the landing rougher than sheet of light but intact. As the dust settled, an eerie silence fell over the crew. Well, Sarah said, unbuckling her harness, let's go see what all the fuss is about. As they exited the ship, the air shimmered around them, and Sarah felt a strange tingling sensation across her skin. Zara gasped, pointing at a nearby rock formation. As they watched, it slowly transformed, reshaping itself into a perfect replica of their ship. Adaptive nanotechnology, Vex breathed. The entire planet is infused with it. It's learning from us. Suddenly, a voice echoed in their minds, not sound but pure thought. Visitors. After so long, why have you come to Erebus? The team exchanged glances, a mix of awe and apprehension on their faces. Sarah stepped forward. We're seeking answers and safety from those who would harm us. Can you help us? There was a pause, and then the very ground beneath their feet began to shift. A pathway formed, leading towards one of the towering spires in the distance. Follow, the voice instructed. But know that knowledge has a price. Are you prepared to pay it? As they made their way along the undulating path, debates broke out among the crew. The humans argued for pressing forward, their curiosity and drive to understand outweighing their caution. The Exilonians, led by Vex, urged restraint, wary of the potential consequences of engaging with such advanced technology. Zara found herself torn between the two perspectives. "Captain," she said, turning to Sarah, "what do you think we should do?" Sarah's face was set in determined lines. "We've come too far to turn back now. Whatever's waiting for us in that tower might be our only chance to stop the conspiracy and prevent a war." But, she added, looking at each member of her crew, "this has to be a unanimous decision. We go forward together, or not at all." One by one, humans and Cylonians alike nodded their agreement. As they reached the base of the spire, a door materialized in its smooth surface. "Last chance to back out," Sarah said, her hand hovering over the door's sensor. Zara stepped up beside her, their shoulders touching. "Whatever happens, Captain, we face it together. Human and Cylonian, united." With a shared nod of determination, they stepped forward into the unknown, the door sealing behind them with a final resonant tone. As they ventured deeper into the heart of Erebus, none of them could shake the feeling that they were about to confront a truth that would change the course of galactic history forever. The forbidden planet had welcomed them, but at what cost? The answer, they knew, lay somewhere in the depths of the ancient spire, and with it, perhaps, the key to saving both their peoples and the future of the galaxy itself. The lucky break erupted from Erebus's atmosphere, its hull gleaming with a new otherworldly sheen. Captain Sarah Chen's hands danced over the controls, marveling at how the ship responded to her thoughts almost before she could articulate them. "Status report," she called out, her voice tight with the weight of their recent revelations. Lieutenant Rodriguez, his eyes wide with awe, responded, "Captain, our systems are. I've never seen anything like this. We're operating at 500% efficiency. Weapons, shields, sensors, they're all beyond anything in known space." Princess Zara stood at Sarah's side, her royal posture at odds with the haunted look in her eyes. "The knowledge we gained on Erebus, it changes everything, Captain. The conspiracy, the balance of power in the galaxy, none of it will ever be the same." Before Sarah could respond, proximity alarms blared. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a terrifying sight. A vast armada of ships hung in space before them, a mix of Cylonian battlecruisers, human dreadnoughts, and vessels from a dozen other species. Vex's voice was grim as he reported from Tactical. "It's them. The conspiracy has played its hand. They must have tracked us to Erebus." Sarah's mind raced. The technology they'd interfaced with on the forbidden planet had shown them the true scope of the threat. A cabal of powerful individuals from across the galaxy, determined to keep their species divided and weak. And now, that same cabal had brought an overwhelming force to ensure their secrets died here. "They're hailing us," Rodriguez announced. The screen shifted to show a face Sarah recognized. Admiral Zhao of the Earth Fleet, a man she had once respected. "Captain Chen," he sneered, "you've led us on quite a chase. Surrender now, and we might show mercy to your crew. Continue this foolish resistance, and we'll reduce you to atoms." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "You know we can't do that, Admiral. Not with what we've learned. Stand down your fleet. It's not too late to do the right thing." Zhao's face hardened. "Then you leave us no choice. All ships, open fire." The void lit up with the fury of 1,000 suns as energy beams and torpedoes streaked towards the lucky break. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, the ship moving with impossible grace to dodge the onslaught. "Return fire," she ordered. "Target their weapons systems only. We're not here to start a massacre." The lucky break's enhanced weapons lashed out, surgical strikes disabling ship after ship with pinpoint accuracy. But the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. "We can't keep this up forever," Vex warned, his usual cool demeanor cracking under the strain. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then it hit her, a crazy, impossible idea born of human audacity and the ancient wisdom of Erebus. "Zara," she called out, "remember what the planet showed us. about the interconnectedness of all things. The princess's eyes widened in understanding. You can't mean. It's our only shot, Sarah insisted. She turned to her crew. Everyone, I need you to focus. Remember what we learned, how we're all part of the same cosmic dance. Reach out with your minds, just like on Erebus. As energy blasts rocked the ship, the crew closed their eyes, concentrating. Slowly, impossibly, a shimmer began to spread from the lucky break. It expanded outward, enveloping ship after ship in the enemy fleet. On the command ships, consoles went dark. Weapons powered down, and in the minds of every being in the armada, a vision blossomed. The truth of their shared history, the artificial divisions that had been sown between species, and the glorious potential of a united galaxy. Admiral Zhao's face reappeared on the screen, his eyes wide with shock and dawning understanding. What have you done? Sarah allowed herself a small smile. We've given you the truth, Admiral. The same truth we found on Erebus. The choice of what to do with it is yours. As the glow faded, Sarah turned to her crew, seeing the same mix of exhaustion and hope on every face, human and Cylonian alike. Set a course for the Galactic Concordat, she ordered. We've got a lot of explaining to do. The lucky break turned gracefully, leaving behind a fleet of silent, awestruck ships. They had won the battle without destroying a single vessel. Now came the hard part, winning the peace that would follow. As they accelerated to warp, Sarah felt Zora's hand on her shoulder. The princess's voice was soft, but filled with determination. Whatever comes next, Captain, we face it together. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead. The conspiracy was exposed, but the real work of uniting the galaxy had only just begun. And somehow, she knew, this unlikely crew of humans and Cylonians would be at the heart of it all. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concordat buzzed with tension. Representatives from 100 worlds shifted uneasily in their seats, their eyes fixed on the small group standing before them. Captain Sarah Chen stood tall, flanked by Princess Zora and the rest of their ragtag crew, human, Cylonian, and those who defied easy categorization. High Arbiter Zen, a being of pure energy contained within a hovering crystalline structure, spoke in a voice that resonated through the chamber. Captain Chen, Princess Zora, you stand accused of violating numerous galactic laws, including trespassing on a forbidden world. Yet you claim these actions were necessary to unveil a conspiracy that threatens the very fabric of our society. We will hear your testimony. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. She thought of their journey. The sabotage, the battles, the mind-bending revelations of Erebus. How could she possibly convey it all? Then she felt Zora's hand slip into hers, a silent show of support. With renewed resolve, Sarah began to speak. Esteemed members of the Concordat, we come before you not as representatives of our individual species, but as citizens of a greater galactic community. The conspiracy we uncovered sought to keep us divided, to stoke fears and prejudices that would prevent us from reaching our true potential. As Sarah spoke, holographic displays sprang to life around the chamber, showing evidence gathered from their journey. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience as the full scope of the plot was revealed. But on Erebus, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, we discovered a truth far greater than any conspiracy. We learned that the boundaries between our species are more fluid than we ever imagined. That together, we are capable of feats that defy explanation. At a nod from Sarah, Vex activated a small device. The air in the chamber shimmered, and suddenly every being present felt a ghost of the connection they had experienced during the battle in the void. It lasted only a moment, but its impact was profound. When the effect faded, the room erupted into chaos. Some delegates shouted in fear, others in wonder. A few reached out to their neighbors, seeing them in a new light for the first time. High Arbiter Zen's form pulsed brightly, calling for order. This is unprecedented. The implications of what you have shown us are staggering. If what you say is true, It could revolutionize our understanding of the universe and our place in it. Princess Zara stepped forward, her voice ringing clear. It is true, Arbiter, and it is only the beginning. The technology of Erebus, the wisdom we gained there, it belongs to all of us. We propose a new era of cooperation, of breaking down the barriers that have held us back for so long. The chamber fell silent as the weight of the moment settled over the assembly. Then, slowly, a Volcran delegate rose, his tentacles waving in a gesture of accord. My people have long sensed the interconnectedness of all things. We support this vision. One by one, other delegates stood, voices rising in a chorus of cautious agreement and excited speculation. But not all were convinced. A human admiral, one of those who had opposed them, stepped forward, his face twisted with fear and anger. This is madness. You're talking about upending everything we know, everything we've built our societies on. It's too much, too fast. Sarah met his gaze steadily. Change is never easy, Admiral, but it's necessary. We can cling to our divisions, our old fears, or we can embrace a future brighter than anything we've dared to imagine. As debate raged around them, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. She looked at her crew, humans and Cylonians who had started as strangers and become family. Whatever the Concordat decided, she knew that they had already begun an irreversible change. High Arbiter Zen's voice cut through the din. It is clear that we stand at a crossroads. The ramifications of what has been presented here today will take time to fully comprehend. But one thing is certain: the galaxy will never be the same. As the summit stretched into the night, filled with heated debates and cautious hope, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Their journey had begun with a princess's impulsive decision and a battered human starship. It had led them across the stars, to forbidden worlds and battles that defied explanation. And now, on the floor of the Galactic Concordat, it had sparked the potential for a new age of unity and discovery. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Sarah knew they would face them together. Not as humans or Xylonians or any other single species, but as pioneers of a new galactic family. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.